I'll never forget the day I walked into Sterling Corp with my mop and bucket, just another morning in my navy blue uniform. My name's Evelyn Davies, 48 years old, and for 15 years, I'd been the cleaning lady. Nobody saw me. The executives in their fancy suits rushed past, their shiny shoes clicking on the marble floors of that Chicago high-rise. To them, I was invisible until I wasn't. It started with a spilled latte and a cruel laugh from the CEO, Richard Harding, that echoed through the halls. That's when I decided they'd mocked me for the last time. Hey, where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. I'd love to know. Every night, I'd push my cart through those empty offices, the city skyline glowing outside the giant windows. Richard's corner office was the worst, papers scattered, coffee cups everywhere, like he owned the place. Well, he acted like he did. I'd hear him barking orders during the day, firing people without a second thought, laughing with his buddies about trimming the fat. Once, I caught him shredding papers, financial stuff he didn't want anyone to see. I didn't say a word, just kept scrubbing, but I was watching, always watching. What would you do if you saw something shady like that? One Tuesday, it got personal. I was mopping the lobby when Richard strutted in with his crew, all smirks and loud voices. Someone had spilled coffee near the elevator, probably one of them, and he pointed at me, barking, "Clean it up, Grandma." The whole staff turned to look. He laughed, they laughed, and I just stood there, mop in hand, face burning. I wanted to yell back, but I swallowed it, kept my head down. That night, alone with my cart, I made a promise to myself. He'd pay for that. Have you ever had to bite your tongue like that? I wasn't always just a cleaning lady. 15 years ago, my Uncle Walter, a big investor, passed away and left me something nobody knew about, shares in Sterling Corp. A lot of them. I could have cashed out, but I stayed, mopping floors, watching Richard turn the company into his personal playground. I'd see good people, janitors, assistants, get laid off while he bought another yacht. Those shares were my secret, my ace in the hole. After that coffee spill humiliation, I called my old friend, David, a lawyer. "David," I said, "it's time. What's the longest you've ever waited to settle a score?" David met me at a diner across town, away from Sterling Corp's prying eyes. Over greasy fries, I spilled everything. Richard's layoffs, the shredded papers, the way he treated us like dirt. David leaned in, eyes sharp. "Evelyn, you're the majority shareholder. You've got the power to end this." I'd been sneaking photos of those papers with my phone, stuffing them in my cart. Evidence, real stuff. Numbers that didn't add up, emails about illegal cuts. David grinned. "We hit him at the shareholders' meeting. Hard." I nodded, my heart racing. Ever catch someone doing something they thought they'd get away with? The shareholders' meeting was a week away, and I kept my head down, mopping floors like nothing was up. Richard strutted around, bragging about record profits, while I dusted his office, my phone buzzing with David's texts. Evidence is airtight. I'd slip into the copy room late at night, printing emails I'd fished from the trash, proof he'd harassed staff, fudged reports. My hands shook, but I felt alive. One night, I overheard him on a call, laughing about squeezing the little people. I smiled to myself. He had no idea what was coming. What's the sneakiest thing you've ever pulled off? The night before the meeting, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my tiny apartment, staring at the stack of papers David had organized. Every lie Richard told, every dollar he stole from us, laid out in black and white. My uniform hung on the chair, still smelling like bleach. I'd walk in tomorrow, mop in hand, and they'd laugh until they didn't. I thought about my Uncle Walter, how he trusted me with those shares. This wasn't just for me. It was for every janitor, every assistant he'd crushed. I whispered to myself, tomorrow, Richard's done. What keeps you up at night when you're about to make a big move? The morning of the shareholders' meeting, I walked into Sterling Corp like always, bucket rattling, head down. The boardroom was buzzing, suits everywhere, Richard at the head of the table, smirking like a king. I waited in the hall, gripping my cart until David texted, "Now." I pushed through the doors, still in my uniform, and every head turned. Richard snorted. "What's she doing here?" He barked, waving me off. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and said, "I'm not just the cleaning lady, Richard. I own this company." The room went dead silent. Ever seen someone's face drop like that? Richard laughed, a loud, fake laugh, and said, "Nice joke, sweetheart. Get back to your mop." The board chuckled nervously. I didn't flinch. I pulled out my folder, slapped it on the table, and started reading. Falsified reports, illegal layoffs, his own emails calling us disposable. Faces went pale. "I've got the shares," I said, my voice steady, "and I've got the votes." David stepped in, papers in hand, confirming it. Richard's jaw tightened. "You can't." He sputtered. "Oh, I can," I cut him off. "You're fired, Richard. Right now. What's it like to watch a bully squirm? The boardroom exploded into whispers as Richard stood there, red-faced, fist clenched. This isn't over, he hissed, storming toward the door. I stayed calm, watching him go. Then I turned to the board. Things changed today, I said. No more layoffs for profit, no more treating people like trash. They nodded, stunned. I wasn't done. I pulled out my phone, showed a photo of the cleaning crew. These folks deserve raises, starting now. A few clapped, tentative, then loud. For the first time in 15 years, I felt seen. Ever had a moment where you finally got your say? Richard didn't go quietly. As I left the building that day, I saw him in the parking lot, yelling into his phone, pacing like a trapped animal. I kept walking, my bucket rattling one last time. By evening, my phone lit up with news alerts. Sterling Corp CEO ousted in shareholder coup. Then it got better. Regulators had seen my leaks, frozen his accounts, his yacht seized, his name dragged online, tweets calling him a fraud, a bully. Karma didn't wait long. I smiled, sitting on my couch. Ever seen someone's world crash that fast? The next day at Sterling Corp, the air felt different. I walked in, no uniform this time, just jeans and a sweater, and people stared, not with pity, but something new, respect. The cleaning crew mobbed me in the break room, grinning. Evelyn, you really did it, one said, handing me a coffee. I laughed. First time in years. Later, I sat in Richard's old office, signing papers for raises, ethical rules. The view was the same, but it was mine now. I wasn't invisible anymore. What's it feel like to finally be seen after being ignored? Word spread fast. By noon, my inbox was flooded, reporters wanting interviews, old coworkers thanking me. One email stood out. A janitor I'd worked with years ago, fired by Richard for asking for a sick day. You gave us our dignity back, he wrote. I teared up reading it. Later, I walked the halls, saw people smiling, really smiling at me. A kid from accounting stopped me, said, "You're a legend, Evelyn." I shrugged, said, "Just doing what's right." But inside I felt 10 feet tall. Ever had someone thank you out of the blue like that? That night, I stopped by the diner where David and I had planned it all. He was already there, waiting. "You're trending, Evelyn," he said, showing me his phone. "Cleaning lady CEO. Everywhere." I laughed, shook my head. "I just wanted Richard gone." David leaned back. "You did more than that. You shook the whole company awake." We toasted with soda cans, like kids. Outside, Chicago's lights blinked, same as always, but I felt different, stronger. I'd spent 15 years waiting, and now I'd won. What's the sweetest victory you've ever tasted? A week later, I got a call from a local news station. They wanted me on air, live. I said yes, nerves jangling. Sitting under those bright lights, I told my story. The mop, the shares, Richard's fall. The host leaned in. "Why'd you wait so long?" I paused, then said, "I needed proof," in the right moment. Calls flooded in, people cheering, some crying, saying I'd inspired them to speak up at their jobs. I left the studio shaky but proud. Ever had a moment where you inspired someone without even trying? Back at Sterling Corp, I started small changes that felt big. I put a suggestion box in the break room. First note said, "More coffee." I laughed, ordered an extra machine. Then I met with the cleaning crew, asked what they needed. Better hours, gloves that didn't rip. Done. One guy, Miguel, pulled me aside. "My kid saw you on TV, he said. She wants to be you someday." I blinked back tears, said, "Tell her to be better than me." It hit me. This wasn't just about Richard anymore. What's one small change you'd make if you ran things? Richard didn't vanish quietly. A month later, I saw him on some cable show, ranting, calling me a sneaky janitor who stole his company. I rolled my eyes. But then the host dropped a clip, security footage of him trashing his office after I fired him, screaming like a toddler. I laughed so hard I spilled my tea. Online, people tore him apart, memes everywhere, his meltdown trending, his old cronies distancing themselves, his empire a punchline. Karma wasn't done kicking him. Ever seen someone dig their own grave deeper like that? Things settled at Sterling Corp, but I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on me. Walking home one night, I noticed a guy lingering too close, too quiet. Then my phone rang. "David." "Evelyn, Richard's been asking around about you." "Stay sharp." My stomach dropped. I'd won, but he wasn't letting go. Next day, I hired security for the crew just in case. I wasn't scared, though. I'd faced him once. I'd do it again. That mop wasn't my weapon anymore. My voice was. Ever had someone try to drag you back down after you rose up? Richard's last swing came quick. One morning, a lawyer showed up at Sterling Corp with a lawsuit, claiming I'd manipulated the SH. I met him in the lobby, calm as ever. "Check the records," I said, handing over my uncle's will, notarized and clean. David was there, smirking. The guy skimmed it, stammered, then left. Hours later, news hit. Richard's case got tossed. Judges called it frivolous, his legal fees piled up, his last allies bailed. He was done, for real, this time. I exhaled, finally free. Ever had someone's plan blow up in their face like that? A year later, Sterling Corp's a different place. I'm still there, not in a uniform, but running things my way. The crews got raises, the layoffs stopped, and people actually smile in the halls. I framed that first suggestion note, more coffee, on my desk, a reminder of who I'm here for. Richard? Last I heard, he's selling condos in some nowhere town, broke and forgotten. Me? I'm no hero, just a cleaning lady who got fed up. If I can do this, so can you. Hit that like button, subscribe.